we've reconvened, and we have part 2 of panel number 4. We have 2 presenters, Monica McFate, who's the Senior Social Scientist for the Human Terrain System. She arrived this morning, so delighted you could join us. She is currently the Senior Social Scientist for the Human Terrain System, which has operations in Afghanistan, Iraq, a program office at Newport News, Virginia, and they have a training facility at Fort Leavenworth. So she was previously the research staff member at the Institute for National Defense Analysis and a Jennings Randolph Fellow at the US Institute of Peace. And I drive by the sign for the new facility that USIP is setting up right next to the Kennedy Center on my way home from work every night. She was also a civil servant who worked in the U.S. Navy's Office of Naval Research and a social scientist at the RAND Corporation's Intelligence Policy Center. She serves also on the Army Science Board and the Defense Science Board. Dr. McFate received a bachelor's degree from University of California, Berkeley, a PhD in anthropology from Yale University, and a JD from Harvard Law School. So welcome home.
Thank you.
Our second panel presentation will be offered by Commander Brian Simpson, Chaplain Corps, U.S. Navy. Chaplain Simpson presented twice yesterday, so we're delighted to welcome you back to the panel. He's got multiple hats. He's actually also representing another naval chaplain who was on the program, so Brian's doing double duty. Chaplain Simpson is a Roman Catholic priest from the Diocese of Chicago and has had 2 combat tours in Iraq. Dr. McFate will be giving us a little bit of an extended overview of the human terrain system. She said this normally takes 2.5 to 3 hours, but she has accepted the challenge of a 20-minute presentation. And Chaplain Simpson will be describing work in the naval chaplaincy for preparing chaplains for an interfaith world. So human terrain system and then an interfaith world. Thank you.
And I have slides.
And our slide operator is half a step ahead of us. While Chaplain Simpson's coming forward and the slides are being shifted, if you need a 3x5 card and have an insightful question you want to raise for the presentation just completed or the one upcoming, I've got a few. So I'll be right in the front. Right?
On our critiques that we give the students, that we're required to give the students to give us on a regular basis during our classes, the one we always dread, but we know it's going to come sooner or later at some point, is death by PowerPoint. It's kind of an occupational problem, but we do that. Please ignore that bottom line. I just stole this slide as a front piece for mine. That's, by the way, a picture of Brett Hall. Brett Hall was named for a Navy chaplain who graduated in February of 1967, reported to his Marine unit and deployed to the Republic of Vietnam. He and his Lance Corporal Marine assistant were killed when they came under fire at Khe Sanh while they were ministering to some of the Marines. So we have a kind of a sad tradition in some ways. We've lost a lot of chaplains in the line of fire, 2 of them in Vietnam. There's an Army chaplain right now that still is in VA care from OIF. One, he was severely wounded by an IED or some kind of a mine when he was driving the Humvee with his assistant. So chaplains aren't just always in the background doing safe things. Sometimes we get out in the middle of things, and it takes its toll. Just to give you an idea of how we train chaplains. And one of the beauties of this system now is that something happened a few years ago which really made us all happy. When I first went through the chaplain school, the school was what we call an accession point. It meant that people were brought into the military at that point for their first experience with the military. And that was true for a lot of direct accession groups, staff corps. Well, a few years ago, they decided that was not such a good idea, and we jumped up and down for joy. And there's 2 good things that happen. Somebody else teaches them what it is to be a sailor, but they also get to begin to understand and work with folks from other communities they will be working with out in the fleet, or in the Marine Corps. So it's a great way for them to get an experience of how to get into the system, also giving them their first understanding of what it is to be a supervisor or a leader within the Navy system. After 5 weeks of that, we bring them across campus to the Naval Chaplains School. And what we focus on there is the ministerial piece. And we have the luxury now, as I like to look at it, of just talking about why we are there, what we do there, how we do it, and how to keep continuing to improve what we're doing. So we have 4 different training types that we do. We do the basic course. We do a supervisory course for those just transiting from being the supervised to the supervisor. We have a course for those who are entering into the strategic level or would be the headquarters or the major command level, like Pacific Command or CENTCOM. And then we have the annual professional development training course and just professional development in general department. So that we kind of try to instill in our chaplains the idea that this is the start of what we hope is a lifelong process of learning and understanding what you are about and how things will change. In spite of how monolithic some people think the military is, it's continually changing because the people are continually changing. We introduce them to what it is to minister in the sea services, and this is the first time that a lot of them find out that Navy chaplains can be found in Marine digis in the desert and in Coast Guard Blue all around the world as well. So we have a broad range of congregation. We have pilots, we have submariners, we have Seabees, we have Marine infantry, and we have those who go out to save lives and protect the environment. So considering the broad spectrum of cultures we have to deal with, and each of them is different. All 3 are very different cultures. But then we also have the understanding of how that attracts certain kinds of people and how people actually live faith experience or faith commitments in those ways. That a lot of times what brings people to these professions is a sense of values that they have learned in family that are often religiously or spiritually connected. We go through the legal foundations and those abbreviations, and I must apologize, we shouldn't be doing this because a lot of you, I don't understand Army that well, so I imagine a lot of you folks don't understand military well at all. So SecNav means Secretary of Navy, OpNav is the Chief of Naval Operations, MARCOR is the Commandant of the Marine Corps, and ComDinst is the Commandant of the Coast Guard. We talk about the constitutional basis, and as I said yesterday about the fact that we were established by the Continental Congress before even the Republic in 1775, right after they founded the Marine Corps, which was a scary thought, but turned out to be one of the best ideas they ever had. So we begin by hammering away at something really critical because in a lot of cases the kind of chaplain we're getting has changed over the last 40, 50 years. And to give you a kind of a thumbnail sketch, along about World War II, we had about 25 or 30 endorsing agents, and they were all fairly mainline. We had the Jewish Welfare Board at the time, we had the Catholics, we had the Orthodox, Lutherans, Methodists, Presbyterians, and a few others. So we're all fairly established mainline churches. Well, fast forward to now, we have 240. And that includes a lot of associations of community churches, these mega churches that belong to certain affiliations of evangelicals or full gospel or other associations of churches that may have very little in common. There's one association that the only thing a church needs to belong to that association is that they preach abstinence from alcohol. But they can be as different from one community to another as any other group within this country can be. So we start out just with a pluralistic group to begin with. And then we go into the whole concept of, you think this is a mix-up. Wait till you think about the people you have to deal with, and they not only are your stretch, but beyond. Because now with the different approaches to faith, and with the different experiences of the numbers of Islamic people and Buddhists and others that are beginning to arrive in the military, and a realization that we can't just leave them to the care of lay leaders, but we also have to train chaplains to take care of them. We bring chaplains from those faith groups in. We try hard to make sure we've got a good supply of what we might consider the non-traditional folks. I mentioned yesterday I was present for the commissioning of the first Muslim chaplain in the Navy about 13 years ago in Groton, and I was there when the Buddhist chaplain showed up at San Diego Naval Station to start active duty. And it's a case that right now this is kind of an open-ended concept. We've been through several variations on our chaplain corps insignia, and we finally abandoned anything that was religion specific. I hate to say the Army did that a long time before us, but we learned. So the focus now for us is just the broad understanding of faith, of sacred writings that belongs to any faith tradition or any spirituality, and go from there. So one of the things we do then is we talk to them about this. We beat them over the head about it. We introduce them to concepts from other traditions that they need to understand and to live with. And some of them, and I mentioned this yesterday, one of the things that really kind of surprised me is when I introduced the whole idea of confidential and privileged communication with chaplains, and I got some deer in the headlights looks from some of the folks. Some traditions don't have that. A lot do, and everybody can pick up and understand it, but it's a conflicting one in some ways because a number of states will demand that religious folk report if they are approached by someone to talk about child abuse or domestic violence and the like. So it sometimes puts our chaplains in conflict, especially if it's on a base that it happens and the civilian authorities want to come in. So we kind of reach for the JAG Corps and say, hey, take care of them for us. They're our shield. But then we also do something which has gotten a chaplain or two in trouble, the public prayer thing. Because one of the things we try to remind chaplains is when they are in public at an official function, it's not their time to preach, it's not their time to hold a worship service, it's not their time to talk about whomever. That fast? Okay, I'm going to have to speed through this like I did last night. Anyway, so we beat them over the head with that, and we give them training. We get them up in front of the class, and we say, do it. And then when it comes to designing the Command Religious program, we have them design a program that's going to meet the needs of all their people, or tell us how they're going to do that. Tell us what mechanism they're going to use to be able to determine what the broad spectrum of need is so that they can implement programs to respond to those, and we bring in some commanding officers for them to report to. They don't just do it to us, they do it to the real thing. So they get a real critique from a real commanding officer. And again, I mentioned that those big four core competencies: facilitation, provision, care, and advisement. These are critical. The facilitation having risen to the top, as it really should, because the broader spectrum do not belong to the chaplain's own faith community. Provision is for their own faith community. Care means everybody, regardless. Doesn't matter whether they're black, white, male, female, whether they're a Native American. And oh, by the way, for those who don't know that, there is an instruction providing for worship for Native Americans using peyote. The military does learn, and there are very strict parameters for that. But if a chaplain is ever approached on that, the chaplain can just pull out the instruction and say, okay, this is how we do this. We have to get the commanding officer involved. We have to talk about it, make sure it can be done safely, and that you're on leave or not in a duty status for that period of time, et cetera. Advisement, and that's where the chaplain earns his money, because if a chaplain isn't willing to be learning and keeping in touch with what's going on and learning really from his people what their needs are, then he's not going to be very successful or very effective, and that's very important. We do a wonderful piece with a retired 06 who teaches at the Naval Academy, Captain Rubel, who gives our junior chaplain, our brand new chaplains, like 3 days of ethics training, so that we make sure to cover that piece well. We send them out in the field with a Marine gunnery sergeant for a week so they can get dirty and learn how to take care of themselves in the field and minister. This last one, is a 2-week program of specific tools. One that was mentioned yesterday, I think Chaplain Bush or somebody mentioned about the bonds, strong bonds, that there is actually the relationship program, PrEP, has developed a new process or a new program or an enhanced program called PrEP Strong Bonds that the Army uses. We use the old Mark 1 Mod 0 version. ASSIST is a very formal suicide prevention program. And again, the COSC, as I talked about last night, for the combat and operational stress control. And then in this neighborhood, what we do is we bring them up to the USS Massachusetts. and let them freeze overnight in the cold weather. We put them on the ship to give them an idea of what a ship really looks like and how to operate on a ship. We didn't do that in my day. We had some other things. Okay. The regimental strike group are a similar level, updating, supervision. And again, it's teaching chaplains that not only are your people going to be from different faith group backgrounds, but at some point the people you're going to supervise, the chaplains you're going to supervise, are going to be like that too. And you're going to have to understand what their needs are. And oh, by the way, don't forget their professional development. Philosophy of leadership is, and then there's the advisement piece again. At the strategic level, when we get into where the big boys battle, or as we often say, the elephants dance, how to be able to not get stepped on and be able to take care of yourself and make your point with them and do well for your people. And then this year, as I said, we're doing the combat and operational stress control for family and friends. Last year was for the service member. We have the Bureau of Medicine involved. We've got Fleet and Family Service, Marine Corps Community Services. We have a couple of Canadian chaplains that are coming down for this. So we're really excited about the fact that this is getting some international attention and that hopefully we're going to provide some good stuff for those folks. And that's it in a quick one. So the point is that, as Dr. Keim said, we educate and we train. And a lot of this stuff, if we had the money to drag people from some of the local academic institutions to where we are and say, talk to our people, teach them, educate them, we would. The only thing is, we don't have money. But if you can talk your congressman or your senator into giving us some money, we'd be happy to do that. And thank you for your time.